So I'd certainly call the last episode interesting. Obviously, when you trade Rickard Rakell and Victor Hedman and popular players like Jonathan Dahlen, you're going to have an interesting reaction. There are certainly going to be a lot of questions, but like I mentioned, I have faith in this team. I was willing to try something unorthodox to see if it paid off, and we will find out in this episode as we begin the sim on our new season here. And let's just find out what happens, man. That's all I can say. I can't hype it up anymore. The previous episode speaks for itself with the moves we made and the new direction that we set this team on. And whether or not it pans out, there's only one way to find out, and that is to begin the sim. I do believe I have auto-rotate goalies on for this series, so we are good to go. I think it's just rebuilding Hockey Town now that no longer, or just doesn't flat out have auto-rotate goalie. Unfortunately for me, oh my god, well that really changes things, doesn't it? Unfortunately, we started off the season on a bit of a rough note, and then we lose one John Klingberg to injury. So Rasmus Dahlin will get a chance very early on here. Certainly didn't plan on that happening, but I'm actually going to put him on the top pairing with Lindholm, and he'll get a decent amount of playing time. We'll see what he can do with those minutes. So already we have been affected by injury. So that's just wonderful, isn't it? Just fantastic. Let's have, where is Elias? We need him as the other extra skater. And then in the shootout lineups, we can go with, who do we want in there? So we have the Nylanders, Forsberg, Lindholm. Who else do we want? Yeah, we can put Elias Anderson in there. That's fine. That is fine. And then for the AHL, I don't want to go best lines either, so this is not how I expected to start the episode, but we have to make sure we do things the right way. We'll have Nilsson in, and again, of course, we have to edit other lines, the shootout lineup. Alright, somebody below an 80, and they'll be able to play. Let's go with Andreas Johnson, or Johnson. I think it's Johnson, I have no idea. Newsflash, I don't know how to properly pronunciate a lot of names, especially Oliver Sheelington, even though it literally says Kylington. I figured maybe it was Keelington. You can't blame me for getting that one wrong. You flat out can't. There are some names that are just so off of how you think they would be pronounced. And boy, this is going great so far, isn't it? We are winless, and we're having trouble staying healthy. Right. Not the start to the season I was looking for. Mainly due to the fact that we kind of have to, prove that I didn't make a mistake, which would be great. Let's see. Boqvist isn't terrible. Pettersson's a somewhat physical player. Do we have more of a grinder type? Looking at the physical categories, we don't. So we'll just call up Boqvist, listed as a checking forward, and he'll be on the fourth line. In the meantime, while Marcus Davidson is out injured, I am so nervous already to look at certain lines. I took one hell of a risk with the moves that I made, and if this goes poorly, if this continues to go poorly, because it's already been rough for us so far, boy, am I never going to hear the end of it from you guys, and perhaps rightfully so. But like I mentioned in the previous episode, I felt like it was the right time to take a risk, to change things up. Rickard Rakell, as we, thank God, finally got our first win of the year. The Rickard Rakell deal, among others, among many others, the Victor Hedman deal as well. It was the right time to take a risk because we weren't sure if we had this lineup completely set. Unfortunately here, we're in a pretty rough spot. 3 points. 3 points through our first 8 games. Alright, not that the Anaheim Ducks are running away with it, and it's still extremely early in this series. Now Klingberg and Davidson are both fully healthy. So I get to edit everything again. Hooray! We'll take out Dahlin. We'll take out Jesper. Put Davidson back in, and we're good to go. You know what? For the hell of it. For the hell of it. Top line's producing. Second line's actually not terrible. That third line's terrible, though. And that fourth line isn't doing much better. So that strategy of having, actual defensive players and actual kind of grinders, physical players. I mean, Davidson's not a physical player. He's more of a defensive player, so you could argue swapping him out for Kempe. But, man, this has been rough. Now, Kempe has penalty kill time, so I actually am going to swap him out with Davidson. And let's just see what happens there for now. The problem with just doing that alone, is a lot of the trades had to do with not wanting to play too many players out of their role. That's a problem that we've really run into in rebuilding Hockeytown, and it's something we had already dealt with in this series, having Rickard Rakell on the second line. So it was tough. It was tough, and I got rid of some players, which, if we do go with the strategy of having Kempe on the fourth line, I got rid of some players that we absolutely still could have held on to and had in a decent spot. So needless to say, I'm sweating a little bit here, thinking I could be in a little bit of trouble and in for a world of hurt in the comments. But let's keep going. It's early. It is still very early. We have plenty of time to turn things around. We're only 8 games in, man. We're only 8 games in. Let's give it a bit more time before before the fans of the Stockholm Kings call for my head on a stake. Let's see. What can we do? October was awful for us. I believe the worst start to a season we've ever had is we get an offer for Brendan Leipsic, who unfortunately is not Swedish. That's not the first time we've gotten an offer for Leipzig as well. Back-to-back wins. Look at that. See, things are picking up already. I didn't check, though, to see how Robin Lehner is doing. So who knows? Maybe Robin Lehner was struggling more than anything. I'd say the plus-minus of our defense was, or not of our defense, but of our bottom 6 was a pretty good indication of what's been going on. But a decent start to the month of November, and we follow that up with 2 straight losses. That's just wonderful, isn't it? 3 straight losses. Can we go for 4 against Anaheim? How about 4 straight? There we go. 4 straight losses. Cool. Cool. Can we make it 5? Yes, we can. Well, this is fucking awesome, isn't it? Ugh. Alright, no, it's fine. It's fine. We have 10 points. We're already 11 points out of a playoff spot. Okay. So what's the issue? That's what we have to figure out here. What is the issue, right? What's the problem here? 6 points from the second line. 6 points from Grundstrom. Alright, the second line's not exactly tearing it up. The first line's doing okay, but still not great. Defensively, oh boy, Klingberg and Lindholm, they're getting along, aren't they? Shillington and Bengtsson, and Edler and Lee. Oh my god. Okay. Goaltending. Yeah, okay. That could be a part of the problem. Robin. What the hell? What the hell? Alright, Högberg. It's your time to shine, buddy. Do you blame the team in front of him? Or is it the goaltending? I don't know. But either way, I'm not too happy at the moment. Yikes. Well, who knows? You know what? Maybe this will all work out. Maybe this will all work out. We'll get the #1 overall pick, and there'll be a Swede with medium franchise potential in the draft, right? It's all a part of the master plan, right? Please. Please let that be the case. That would be great. As we continue to lose, we've had a better start to the season in Draft to Glory than we've had here. That's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I don't think we should be this bad of a team. I'm just saying. Even with the changes I've made, how are we this bad? Really? Hey, we beat the Bruins. Yay, we finally won a game. Cool. How are we this bad? I don't get it. Like, yeah, I traded Raquel, but we replaced him with Lindholm. Not exactly a one-for-one there. I replaced Hedman with Klingberg, kind of a one-for-one. How have we been this poor? I'm shocked, genuinely. I thought maybe we might take a step back or might get off to a slow start. This has been rough. I don't even want to say anything right now. I'm just going to stay quiet about certain results because the second I start to say, and see, there we go. The game knew I was alluding towards the fact that we started to pick up a few wins, and immediately after we lost 2 straight games. So I'm not going to say anything. We're just going to hope for the best. We're going to hope that playoff hockey returns to Stockholm and that I'm not going to be labeled as an idiot for what we did in the previous episode. That's the hope. Now, if Grundstrom and Elias Anderson continue to develop and progress, that will ease some of the pain of this season. It'll also help if Liljegren progresses, Marcus Davidson. That's one of the big reasons I made the moves I did, of course, was to get certain players playing time to see what we had with them. Remember, it's not like I can't trade for them again. Worst comes to worst, can I reacquire Stromwall? Yeah, I can. I don't know if I could reacquire Raquel. I don't think we could afford that without shipping Lindholm right back. Not that I plan on going back on all of the moves I made. I'm just saying we still have options on what we can do if this season turns out to be an epic failure. Which you can't label it that just yet. We're close to that point. We don't know how the rest of the division is doing, although 3 losses in our last 4 games isn't going to help make that 4 losses in our last 5. Can we go for 4 in a row? We can't. We actually beat the Blues again. So that's good. We beat the Blues twice in a week. And that's about all we've done. As we approach the All-Star break. And we will get there with a record of 20, 27, and 4. Oh boy. Alright, let's stop at the All-Star break. We've hit February 1st. What's our situation looking like? We are on 44 points, 15 points back of Vancouver, and 12 points back of the Anaheim Ducks. Our locker room chemistry hasn't progressed at all. Okay. Oh man. This isn't good, is it? This isn't good. Let's take a look at some stats here. So the top line is delivering. That's good. Second line, that's not terrible. 23 points from Grundstrom. Not bad from Elias. I mean, second line's not bad. The third line, point total-wise, isn't bad, but for a line that's supposed to be decent defensively, their plus-minus is brutal. The fourth line, the plus-minus, actually isn't as bad as I thought it would be. And you actually have some pretty good offensive chemistry from the 3 of them. It's just that third line that is killing us right now. So let's take a look at some player types instead. And maybe change some things around to get a jump started that way. Defensively, that top pairing's rebounded a little bit. The second pairing, still kind of meh. And the third pairing, still a bit shaky. Alright, how's the goaltending? Högberg has actually jumped up to an 86. He has a 913. He has been the starter because I, set him there. He's played 36 games. I'm gonna put Leonard back in, but we very well could be going with Högberg for a decent part of the season. And the big question will be here as I approach the trade deadline. We're close. I mean, we've breezed through this season. The question is, what do we do potentially? Do we look at making a move? what kind of situation are we going to be in? Now, I 100% expected Stromwall to be towards the top of league scoring, which doesn't appear to be an issue, unless I've completely missed somebody's name. There isn't a Swede. Well, Stromwall's there at 42 points for the Sabres, which is still pretty good. He'd be the leading scorer on our team. Of course, he has 27 goals. He is listed as a third-line guy. So again, we could look at bringing him back if we decided that was necessary. Victor Hedman is on 40 points. All right, so I'm glad. And, of course, Erik Karlsson's doing better than Klingberg. Right. I'm going to stop looking at these numbers because it's a bit depressing, to be honest. We still... I'm trying to find some level of confidence, even fake confidence, that we're going to turn this around. I can't promise anything. Now, Eriksson Ek isn't doing too bad. For some reason, he's always been half decent as a playmaker. He's got decent body checking and decent hand. I'm going to try him at a power forward again. Let's try Eriksson Ek at a power forward again. I mean, point total-wise, like I said, he's done all right. So maybe as a power forward, he can keep that offensive production going. With Kempe, we're probably looking at changing him to a two-way. More than likely, currently on a grinder, player build, or player type. And we will switch him to a two-way. And for Luke or Loki, I have no idea. So let's go with two-way, and I didn't want to switch him to a right wing. I gave you a letter over Luke. I can't help but call him Luke as opposed to Loki, which apparently is how it's pronounced. It just makes me think of Thor. But, let's see. We switched him to a two-way, which may have been a mistake in hindsight. I'm going to change him back to a sniper, which is what he was before, which doesn't... I mean, his attributes are a bit weird, right? His attributes are a bit weird, but I felt like the outrage for trading him would be bigger than the outrage of trading Stromwall. But you saw what Stromwall did, and the fact that he is listed as a third-line guy. Loki here could be the guy that we move out to bring in Stromwall. I don't know, man. I don't know. February is a huge month for this team. It is a gigantic time for this team, and we'll see what we can do. Robin Leonard back between the pipes. We've altered a couple of things with our third-line players, and we shall see if we can find any level of continued success. If we're going to lose games, lose in overtime, every point is going to matter. We're obviously not in the division title race, but we could still sneak into the playoffs. This division looks like the stronger division. Of course, it had both wildcard spots when we just checked. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I don't know what to expect. Do I want to scout Liga for a week? I won't. Let's go back and scout the SHL forwards again. Of course, odds are, last time we checked, the only other region where there was a Swedish player was Liga, and the SM Liga, and they didn't happen to be too good. And there was only one of them, I think. So I'm not all that concerned. Of course, we have very limited options. And after winning 4 straight games, we lost 3 in a row, which isn't very promising. How Kirby Reichel is worth a first and a second round pick, I have no idea. He only has top 9 potential, but okay. That's concerning. Let's see here. Our last game before the deadline is against the Arizona Coyotes, and we get a 5-4 win. We get the 5-4 win, 28-31-4. Let's sim one extra day here, and we will check back with the standings. We'll take a look at some attributes and some stats as well. We're on 60 points, 10 points back of the Ducks. Wow. Okay. What do we do from here? What do we do? So let me take a look. Top line is doing well. Second line, I'm happy with Anderson and Grundstrom. Very happy with them, and Elias Lindholm's been great on that line with them. So the top six isn't an issue. That third line, defensively, still struggling. The fourth line, I don't feel like they're doing terribly. And then defensively, the top pairings finally found their chemistry. Second pairing's a bit meh. Third pairing isn't as bad as it was. It's just Robin Leonard. I can say what you want about the team in front of him, but they're not terrible. He needs to be better than a .908 save percentage. It's not as though Högberg is that much better, but damn. I think it is the goaltending more than anything. More than anything, that goaltending needs to step up. And the question is, the potential question of, do we try to go back and reacquire Stromwall, which would be easy. His trade value wasn't too crazy. Davidson's up an overall point. He's progressing in certain stats, which is nice. And he's having a pretty decent year for a fourth-line guy. Loki isn't too terrible, and he was a playoff hero, right? I mean, the plus-minus is a bit rough, but 16 goals on the third line is pretty damn good. So the only move, if we wanted to keep Jens, I'm just going to call him Luke. If it's wrong, whatever. I don't care. The only issue with Jens Luke is that, I mean, we could keep him, but then I'd probably drop Carl Grundstrom. So, for example, the second line would probably become Anderson, Lindholm, Stromwall, unless we wanted to put Luke up there and have Stromwall on the third line. But the issue is that second line's doing all right. Grundstrom, he's advancing in certain stats. He's having a good year. Same thing with Elias Anderson. And Elias Lindholm, he's not going to get any better than what he is, but he's pretty damn good as it stands. The team on paper shouldn't be struggling this much. It's the goaltending. It is. I know what you're saying. Like, oh, well, defensively, but it's like you look at Lindholm's defensive category, you look at Klingberg, you look at Sheelington, because that's so obvious. You look at Bengtsson, even as an offensive defenseman, he's not terrible defensively. We have Alex Edler, and even Liljegren isn't awful. Huh. I mean, I could go out and get an upgrade on Edler. I could go out and get Ekholm, but let's double check the league scoring again. And we'll take a look at Stromwall. I don't know if we'll make a move here, though. If we miss out this year, it's not the end of the world. I mean, obviously it would suck a little bit because I still expected to make the playoffs. Stromwall currently on 54 points. Hedman, 53 points in Detroit. Right. Huh. All right. Tough calls here. Tough decisions. It's funny, though, that Lindholm is leading this team in points despite being on the second line. Problem is we have 19 games left, right? We are 5 wins back of Anaheim. Because the lack of overtime losses is really hurting us at this stage. Let's double check here. We'll see who's coming up in the draft and if it truly isn't the worst year to kind of tank it. Not necessarily tank it, but we have Cameron Corvo. He's not eligible, though. He's playing in the SHL, but he's not eligible to us. So as far as players in the draft, we have Andrew Wong. He's also not eligible to us. God damn. We have Silfverberg, a first-round pick of a defenseman. We have Clefbaum, second to third round. Johansson's a 5th round. Leonard's a 7th. We aren't getting any breaks when it comes to Swedish players in the draft. There's nobody in this draft that's a game changer for us. Kalle Hedin might not be terrible, but it's just Silfverberg in the first round, and that's it. That's the only guy where we can say, yeah, he's worth getting. We are in a ton of trouble here. We'll double check, and there were already, it did just show quite a few Swedes actually. Quite a few Swedes in the SM Liga. Now, let's see here. 7th round, 2nd, 5th, 3rd, undrafted. Top 10. Okay, we might have a game changer here. And Matt Gertz, I have no idea. But he's a top 10 defenseman. So we'll definitely scout Liga moving forward. And for the hell of it, allow me to check the CHL leagues, although I'm fairly certain that they're pretty much going to just be Canadian and American, but you know what? It's worth checking. It's at least worth double checking just to find out for sure what the situation is. And honestly here, if the OHL... Okay, yeah, fuck it. Alright, so let's scout the SM Liga. And as far as moves, I think I'm just going to stand pat and move forward. I want Grundstrom and Anderson to continue to develop. And in fairness to Loki, Luke, he's not having the worst season. We need our goaltending to step up. As far as goaltending options, it's still just these two. We have the two best Swedish goaltenders in the game at the moment. So, there's a very good chance we can miss the playoffs. If that's the case, I'm alright with it. Did I expect us to make the playoffs this year? Yes, I did. If we don't, it's not necessarily the end of the world as long as Grundstrom, Davidson, Elias Anderson, Liljegren, as long as those guys, and Luke for that matter, he's still young enough and still has decent enough potential. If those players at least progress, Sheelington as well, Bankston, it won't be a complete loss of a season. As it stands right now, unless we can at least get points out of every game, we can't afford regulation losses. Yeah, we're toast. We're done. Just too many regulation losses. And it's just crazy how we can go from dominating a team to getting shut down 4-1 in a game. It's pretty crazy. But the thing about this was, and you look at players like Dahlin, who just wasn't really going to progress. You look at players like Forsbacka Karlsson, who wasn't getting any better. It was about moving certain players out that were just going to hang around and weren't really going to be difference makers for the team. This year, in a way, like I said, despite wanting to make the playoffs, this year was about seeing what we have with other players. Unfortunately, we are going to fall short, back-to-back 4-0 shutout losses to Ottawa and Calgary. Certainly doesn't help. But, man, it's tough. Man, that's our third frickin' 4-0 shutout loss in like a week. Come on. We'll see what happens against Minnesota here. Klingberg goes down to injury. Well, that's it for this season, isn't it? And judging by the morale of all of my players, it's official. We are out for the season. A very, at least to me, a very surprising turn of events. When I put this team together, I thought it would at least be good enough to keep us in contention. Fact is, Robin Leonard just did not get the job done this year. You might blame the team in front of him. I blame the goaltending personally. Because we have seen other goalies win cups with a defense much worse than that. So flat out, I blame our goaltending for this season. The problem is, there aren't any other alternatives, and we're definitely out given the locker room chemistry. Indeed, we are. We're 13 points back of Edmonton. So you know what we're going to do? Because this episode kind of flew by, I think I'm going to handle the draft in this episode. Normally, I would save that for its own separate episode, and then I almost said episode. Normally, I would handle the draft in its own individual episode and then have the rest of the offseason next time out. But I think we'll handle the draft here too. And maybe we can get someone who will be a bit of a difference maker as we just get shit on for the rest of the season. Wow, can we at least end it on a bright spot, a bright note with a win against Arizona, please? Not going to find out until we handle the scouting here. Let me go with the Liga defense for 6 weeks. We lost our last 7 games. No positive note to end on there. A very disappointing end to a pretty disappointing season. I can admit, it was a bit of a failure. It was a failure, flat out. I thought with the changes that we'd still be able to make the playoffs, and that didn't happen. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to see what happens this offseason, because we are going to have certain decisions to make, and I don't know what's next for this team. I don't know what's next, and man, a lot of our player overalls really dropped because of the morale system. There could be a massive change coming to this team if certain players, say, refuse to resign because we missed out. I don't know. And the problem is, like I said, we haven't had that elite Swedish player in the draft. There are other goaltending options we can look at, but none are as good as Robin Lehner, at least on paper. I don't know what's going to happen as we move forward. But chalk this season up as a loss, unfortunately. Unfortunately for me, at least. And I'd say unfortunately for you too, as well. I mean, I don't know. There are probably some people who take joy in our shortcomings in this series, and then there are other people who, of course, want us to win as many cups as possible, like a normal person. But it's tough to say. You watch. Buffalo will win the cup. Detroit will win the cup. Either one of those two teams, right? With players that we traded to them. And it was Philly. Philly and the San Jose Barracuda in the AHL. As far as stats, I didn't even really take a look. We'll breeze through that really quickly. I was just so depressed I didn't want to look at anything. As far as the final team stats, we finished dead last in the division. We finished with 73 points. We were a bottom 5 team in the league this year. Our offense wasn't great. Unfortunately, in the bottom 10 for goals for per game. Our goals against per game, we were in the top 10 for most goals against. Or were we just outside? I cannot count. Yeah, we were 9th. Okay. Wow, our power play was the worst in the league, which is ridiculous. And I How? How did we have the league's worst power play? The Nylanders, Forsberg, Lindholm, the offensive defense. What the hell? And maybe I should have taken a look at that. Our penalty kill wasn't terrible. Maybe I should have taken a look at that during the regular season. But I honestly didn't expect it to be that bad when you factored in that our top 6 wasn't doing too terribly in terms of points. I am doing this completely out of order, but I'll get you a look at the Philly team that won the cup, led by Patrick Laine and Brock Besser. Nail Yakupov also on that team, and Bo Bennett as well. Bo Bennett, a Stanley Cup champion. How do you like that? And one of the goalies I was talking about, Felix Sandstrom, just won a cup with the Philadelphia Flyers. Didn't do too well in his limited postseason appearances. Back to our regular season scoring, because I didn't take a look at the final numbers. And that's just not good. Elias Lindholm, 56 points. William Nylander only had 44 points. And that's just how? How does he drop from 65 to 44? It just doesn't make sense. And you can factor in like, oh, he wasn't on the power play for the most part. I mean, we occasionally had Raquel with the Nylanders on the power play. We had underperforming players, most of whom, were our big names, especially Robin Lehner in goal. We just had a very bad year. Hampus Lindholm, only 10 points. You look at those numbers. Maybe we move... I mean, the thought process was to keep him because he's a bit more of a defensive guy rather than Hedman. Maybe we go out and try to pick up Victor Hedman. Just incredibly disappointing. Wow. All right, well, I'll get you a look at the playoff tree. We'll take a look at the awards, and then we will get to the draft. The Flyers beat the Avs in 6, and down in the AHL, the Marlies lost to the Barracuda in 5. I doubt we pick up any hardware. Maybe a Calder, if we're lucky. Malkin wins the Art Ross again. He wins the Hart for the 3rd straight year. Victor Hedman won the Norris. Okay, of all the trades I made, I don't know if it was the easy, like, oh yeah, you totally made a mistake, keeping Lindholm over Hedman. I don't know how many people would have said that, especially too, we saw that Hampus Lindholm was able to make it up to like a 94 overall at one point. But we put our faith in him, and Hedman went on to win the Norris. So, say that, do with that information what you will. Harkins wins the Calder. I should mention as well, I took a look at Robin Kovacs. He was a step below Stromwell, so that's why we didn't approach him. Conn Smythe goes to Laine. Halverson, the Vezina. Charlie Lindgren, I do believe that is, wins the Jennings. Hetherington, the Masterton. Kopitar, another Selke. Malkin, another Ted Lindsay. And Tarasenko regains the Rocket Richard. Down in the AHL, were we able to take home any hardware at all with the Ontario Reign? Not looking like it. What a season to forget for this franchise. Wow. All right, well, let's move forward towards the draft. I can't wait to see the feedback for this episode, as we don't have our #1 pick this year either. That's one of the picks we sent to Minnesota for Elias Anderson. It's just things haven't been going as planned with this series as of late. But we have time. We still have a chance to recuperate, and to get the team back on track. But for the moment, as it stands, we're in a bit of a rough spot. Now, losing out on a first-round pick might not be the worst thing. I mean, here's the thing. With that Swedish player that was available, right, the guy who was projected to be top 10, odds are it will be easier to just let somebody else pick him and then trade for him immediately after. I've talked about that being the strategy in the past, just because of how low quality the majority of Swedish players entered into the game have been. We'll see if that pans out here. As we enter the draft, we'll take a look at the big board here, scouted players, and we'll see where he's projected to go. And he is still a top 10 player, top 10 defenseman. So I'll probably try to trade for, go figure, the Minnesota pick. The past few episodes have been brutal. I don't know if we can afford this pick. I genuinely don't know if we can. Now, we have second-round picks to work with, and we're not really going to need them, right? I mean, that's the thing. We're not really going to need the majority of our picks. So it is worth it to us to trade up and get this pick back, right? It is worth it. But for every other player in the draft, the strategy of, seeing what they are first and then trading for them later will be the better way to go about things. Now, we are going to have to give up a decent amount to get this deal done, but it's worth it. I mean, we are trading up for a 6th overall pick. There we go. That went through. I'm cool with that. Again, remember, it's a specific series. We could only draft certain players from a certain nation. So there's not a whole hell of a lot we can do, as the Highlanders and the Bruins both take high top 6 defensemen, which concerns me. Which very much concerns me. Now, I could be a bit cheap here and just trade down, or I can just make it easy, save us time, and take Matt Gortz. I have no idea. There was a guy in the Nashville system that had the same last name. I think he went to Anaheim too at one point. I think his name is Max, actually. But he's our guy. He is the best player that's been available to us for quite a while. A medium top 4 defenseman, which you have to factor in too. We have Rasmus Dahlin in the pipeline still, so that's nice. But, oh boy, his value. And that's what I'm talking about. It would have been better to just let Minnesota take him, and then we could have gotten more back as far as draft picks go. And I had a feeling that would be the better choice, but, you know, I just wanted to make sure that we ended up with him. So taking a look at the scouted players, who else is available in the first round to us? Any other Swedes in the first round? I think there should be one. We have Silfverberg. And that's it. And he is also a defenseman. We have Silfverberg. We also have Eriksson. So I'm going to sim to the next round. And we'll scroll back through and see if he was taken. Which I would assume he was. But it's at least worth checking. As you can at least get to look at some of the names too that were drafted. Silfverberg, medium top 4. To Montreal. We'll go take a look. See if he is any better than who we already have. But man, yet another episode that ends in a bittersweet manner. That's for sure. But let's see here. His value is even lower. He's a 65 overall at 19 years old. You know what? I think we're good. As far as this draft goes, I mean, I could look. There's not going to be another steal. So let me sim to our next pick. We have at least one more second round pick left. Let me see if there's anybody available that's worth it. If not, we're just going to trade away our picks for next year. We have Eriksson, who is most likely low. Low top 9, medium top 9 at best. I mean, I guess we might as well just make the pick, right? We might as well. And just hope that he's medium top 9. You also have Olaf Franzen. It's not a good situation, is it? It really isn't. Is he the best Swede available to us? He is the best, well, and there's an undrafted guy projected in Par and Gustafsson. We have Franzen. Man, this is rough. You know what? Screw it. We might as well just take who's available to us. So whatever. I'll make the rest of our picks. And of course, Eriksson was low top 9. I'll make the rest of the picks. Whatever. I could pick Horde and trade down for picks next year. At this stage, and with the way this episode's gone, I don't think it's too big of a deal. I really don't. I think we're good. So as far as who's projected next, we have Clefbaum in the 4th round, or we have Hedin. Both are equally likely to be low or at best medium. As far as how good they are, is that it for the 4th round? Yes, it is. So do we go with defensive D-man Torsten Clefbaum, or do we go with Kalle Hedin? And we're going to go with Hedin. Low top? Yep, of course. Of course. Of course. I want to see how good the other defenseman was. Hold on. Where are you, buddy? Where are you? Somebody take him already. Save me some time, please. Oh, come on, EA. Just did he already get picked and I just missed it? That's a possibility. That is a possibility. Oh, it's our pick again. Did nobody pick him or did I miss it? Oh, nobody picked him. Oh, well, how do you like that? We're going to end up with both of them. We're going to end up with both of them. I mean, it is still the best option. We have him. We have Leonard and Weinhandel. Yeah, he's still the best option. So let's go with Clefbaum and hope for medium bottom 6. Hey, I count that as one of our lone victories of the episode. We have back-to-back picks here in the 5th round. Sweet. So 5th round, actually, we'll just see Who's projected to go here in the 5th or the 5th to 6th? It's not looking all that great now, is it? We have Hovland, we have Leonard, and Winehandle. Let's go ahead and take Winehandle. We'll hope for the best. Medium bottom 6 actually isn't too bad. It's not too bad at all. You know, I'm going to go ahead and just take Gustafsson next. He's an off-the-board pick. And low top 9, which isn't bad for someone who is projected to be undrafted. It's actually kind of a bit of a steal. We have another pick here in the 5th round, so it's not like it matters that we went off the board with them. Let's go with... We have Hovland as exact 7th, which isn't great. Or Mahler, Leonard, Berglund. Let's go with Leonard. Why not? He'll be low. Yep, he is. Great. Getting a bunch of players that we're just going to trade for nothing later on down the line. But that's okay. No, it's not. I'm just kidding. It's awful. We're in an awful situation. We really are. Let's take Hovland next, because why not? Medium 7th D. Hooray. Hooray. We're in the 6th round. Not getting anybody at all in these drafts. Nobody. Call it a draft. Call it a draft. I don't care. Erzberg. Who do we take next? Let's take the two-way forward. Mahler. I have no idea. Don't really care either. Can you tell I'm defeated? Between how the past few episodes of this... Between how the past few episodes of this series have gone, combined with Draft to Glory, rough times for your buddy Toogie here. But we'll find a way. We'll find a way. If anything, it's kind of nice to be struggling. If anything, it's kind of nice to be struggling because the vast majority of my series end up with me turning a team into a dynasty. So in Draft to Glory, it's nice to be struggling a bit. In this series, it's nice to be struggling a bit, even if I don't think we should be. Even if I don't think we should be. Now, we'll handle all this in the next episode. We'll handle all this in the next episode. That way I can get your feedback, whether or not we trade Lindholm for... Yeah, I mean, the idea would be to get Victor Hedberg, or Victor Hedman back, not Hedberg. I was thinking of Tommy Hedberg. And I just saw his name. But we'll handle the rest of this later, because it's going to be interesting. The hope is that maybe somebody shows up in free agency for once, right? And that people bounce back from the morale issues, because if they don't, then I'm really screwed. Guys, it is depressing to look at that screen at the moment, so I'll handle that a different day, at a different time. For now, I'll say I hope you enjoyed this episode and my misery as I sit here defeated with my team struggling that I thought could at the very least get back to the playoffs, but I can admit I was wrong. I can admit that. But I hope you did enjoy this episode. Of course, if you did, make sure to hit that like button to help support the video and the channel. Any and all support is greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't already to continue following this series and others, because boy, oh boy, if you like hearing someone just be absolutely miserable as his team and his project fails in front of his eyes, then you're not going to want to miss what's next. Follow me on Twitter at Toogie24 for updates and other random stuff, and of course join the notification squad if you haven't already, to make sure that you never miss a video, because you never know when YouTube's going to act up and all of a sudden you might get randomly unsubscribed from me, which apparently still happens to people, or videos don't show up in sub boxes, which apparently still happens to people. So do everything you can, take every step to make sure that you don't miss a video. Spread the word, because man, if you try to advertise anywhere, people just downvote the shit out of you. Or they'll flat out remove your post. So spread the word. If you know people that like this kind of content, hey, spread the word. I'm not saying go on other people's channels and just be like, oh, check out this guy's channel instead, because that's a bit scummy. But then again, I can't control what you do. But like I always say, if you enjoy what I do here, truly leaving a like, subscribing, it does help. It really does. I mean, if you see, there's a big difference between, oh, this guy's getting 500 views a video and this guy's getting 1,000 views a video. There's a big difference between this guy has 500 subscribers and 5,000, which we are getting very close to 5K, which is fucking sweet. I wanted to end this video on a positive note. I have been able to make a positive spin of things, and hopefully that positivity continues into the next episode. So until then, guys, I will catch you next time.